I just enjoyed the trials and having to come up with creative ideas and way to do things differently.
Right.
And interpret what the customer is actually saying, even though they don't know what they're saying. The love of the diversity that the flowers offer us and the ability to change people's lives.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Total Michigan, where we interview ordinary Michiganders doing some pretty extraordinary things. I'm your host, Cliff Duvinois. I'm actually really excited about today's episode because we're getting an opportunity to explore something that we've never explored on the show. We've covered restaurants and museums, and we've talked about parks and everything else like that. We have never once visited a florist. And I'm in the city of Midland and, of course, doing research in the area and finding, businesses that have been around for a while, things that are doing, businesses that are doing something absolutely unique is actually how I found today's guest. And to help us unpack the very interesting story, family story, about this business would be Mark Smith. And he is the owner of Smith's Flowers and Gifts located in Midland. Mark, how are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you for asking. So why don't you tell us really quick, what is Smith's Flowers and Gifts?
In a nutshell, we're the oldest family-owned florist in Michigan. Well, maybe not Michigan, Midland for sure, maybe the Tri-Cities.
Right.
And we started in 1947.
Okay.
And we moved into this building in 1956. And I'm third generation. That puts us in the 13th percentile for survivors.
Yes, that's right.
And my daughter is here also, and she puts her in the 3%.
Which would be fourth generation.
Fourth generation, yeah. We've been here going strong and doing it different, I guess is the way to look at it.
So here you sell flowers, but it looks like you have a bunch of like knickknacks, because I saw like some really nice wood carving, coffee mugs.
Yep. Flowers and plants is the bulk of the business. And it didn't always used to be that way. It used to be get diamonds and gold and all sorts of things. But most of the merchandise, or a good portion of the quote unquote merchandise, is on consignment from local artists.
Oh, okay.
Like all the wood and the pottery and all that is locally made right here in Midland, most of it. And it's in here on consignment and comes and changes all the time, comes and goes and goes from there. And it was a thing we kind of started pre-COVID to give artists an outlet, because there was really no place. I mean, you go to a craft show or something and sell your stuff on the weekend,
right?
But you don't have any place to display it where the public just passes through constantly. And it started out real small, got real big, and now it's kind of leveled off to a certain flow. And it's been a good thing going both ways for us and for them.
Nice. I'd like to explore that a little bit more, but before we jump into that, why don't you tell us a little bit about where are you from? Where did you grow up?
Born and raised in Midland.
Okay.
I've been here, well, not all my life, because I got fired a couple times and I quit a few times.
You mean you got fired from this shop?
Yeah. It's hard. A family business is really tough, because
it is. You
have, say, two generations and they bicker about how to do things. Well, when I started, I was the third generation in the building. So my grandpa and I used to butt heads all the time.
Oh, wow.
Because I was always coming up with quicker, easier ways to do things.
Right.
And he was still stuck in no, we've always done it this way thing.
Right.
And it was a challenge putting my dad in the middle between us.
To like play referee.
Kind of having to pick sides, and it didn't work out real well a few times. So yeah, I got fired a couple times and I quit a couple times and came back, and I've been here basically 52 years.
Sweet Moses.
I'm only 70, so.
Well, you still got a long ways to go.
I do. I hope not. I hope I'm out of here soon. But it's a love-hate relationship. I mean, I really love what we do.
Right.
I mean, being able to work with basically God's paintbrushes.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that.
And make arrangements for other people. And we cover all the highs and lows of life.
Right.
Basically births and deaths and, of course, and all that and everything in between. So
That's interesting. So you literally are a part of people's journey, whether it's buying them something for, like, let's say engagement, maybe actually
Yeah.
earlier than that, right? Because
Before that, yeah.
like prom, right?
Prom
Yeah,
and
high school kids coming
homecoming
in
and
for
stuff.
prom.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Trying to get her to go on the first date,
Trying.
you know,
Make that first good impression with the parents and stuff,
Yeah.
showing up with the
Or
flowers.
show up with flowers for mom, not
Right.
for her,
Yes.
you know.
That's fast way for brownie points.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it works. I keep telling guys, trust me on this. Just trust me, because it does work.
Yes.
I got years of seeing it work, you
Right.
know. And it's always interesting when they come back and say, wow, you're right.
It scored major brownie points.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've been here, you know, since 1947.
Now, this was something that you said your grandfather and your father started this business.
Yeah. Right after my grandpa worked in the bomber plant during World War II
Okay.
down in Detroit. And they lived in Wayne, Michigan,
Right.
on the river. And he grew delphinium as a hobby and sold it to local flower shops. And after the war got over, my great-grandparents already lived here in Michigan, or Midland.
Right.
And so they started looking around, wanting to get out of Detroit, so on and so forth, and decided to come up here and start from scratch.
Right.
And that's what they did. At the time, they were only the second flower shop in Midland.
Right.
And they kind of got their start from the other flower shops saying, oh, we're too busy. Go over to these guys.
Right.
And that's how it kind of got started. And then there was the Dow plane crash, which killed a lot of the Dow family and stuff back in the day. And that started the whole thing going. That's how we got into, with Alden Dow, to design this building.
Right.
And that's just tumbled from there.
Right.
And kept going.
For our audience, what he was talking about there for Alden Dow, we actually have an episode coming up where we dive a lot deeper into Alden Dow's background, one of the famous architects.
Yes.
That was out
worldwide.
there. Worldwide, designed over 600 homes, buildings,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So that's really amazing there. Now, the question I got for you, because you were talking before about, your grandfather and your father starting this business, did they ever say why they wanted to get into running a flower?
Not really.
business?
That's
Okay.
kind of the shadowy area of the family. We don't really
Ooh.
know. We don't really know exactly why and how.
Right.
And I've asked my dad over the years a few times, and it blossomed from, like I said, he was growing delphinium and got
Yep.
involved with florists in the southern part of the state. And when they moved up here, it was just a natural thing, I guess, for them to
Sure.
continue on.
Right.
You know, my dad, myself, my grandpa never went to school
Right.
for this business. My grandma did, as far as floral design goes. But
Oh,
then
okay.
she really didn't do any of it.
Okay.
So she'd be the one to say, pointing out in the book, no, you do it this way. It just kind of blossomed from there. It didn't.
Right.
There was no shining light moment that, okay, this is what we're going to do. I think it just happened.
Right.
So at that time we were the second florist in town and been here ever since. Actually, back to Alden Dow, this is the first retail building he ever did. So and the first church is right next door
Right.
that he did. So
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, we're right here in the same area. And
Because the one thing I really appreciate the store, first off, is the size, right? 'Cause this
Yeah.
place is huge,
it's big.
but the multi-levels to it. Again, usually when I see it go into like a florist shop, it's very small footprint. Usually have some kind of a refrigerated case where they keep, primarily roses,
Yeah.
and that's it. But here it's like this place is big.
Yeah, we're if you count all the floors and everything, we're at 7,500 square feet, which is pretty good size for any retail establishment nowadays.
That's
if
true.
you're not in
Yes.
a mall, know.
Yes.
And we are blessed to have the space that we do. It's a unique place. I mean, how many other fish ponds have you seen indoors, right?
None. None.
And that's an original feature of the design.
Oh, that's cool.
That it's one of the original features. And they were kind of weird back then. This place was designed with gravel floor, pea gravel,
Okay.
downstairs on the first floor.
Right. Yeah.
But if you think about back in the 50s, all women wore high heels all the time.
Yep.
And walking in gravel just didn't make any sense.
Ooh.
And then there were supposed to be bird cages with parakeets around the place. And
Boy, that is out there.
Who wants to change bird cages every day, all day? You know?
Yes.
So those two things got scratched from the original plans, and this is what we have, and it's changed some over the years.
Right.
I mean, this floor where we're sitting right now, we used to all be diamonds and gold and crystal. We used
Like
to
a pawn shop or
no,
just a gold and silver
Retail.
store or
just retail.
retail. Okay. All right.
I mean, it's basically before pawn shops.
Right. Okay.
You know, I mean, I know pawn shops have always been around, but no, this was straight retail. We'd bring in diamonds and stuff out of New York, and we used to carry 150 different patterns of dinnerware.
Oh,
You know, back in the day when brides registered for, now they register at Target or Home Depot or somewhere.
Right,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
They didn't go to a specialty store
correct.
like they did back in the 60s and 70s.
Right.
And so that's changed some. We got out of that part of it and focused more on the everyday life, you know.
Sure.
And after my dad retired and things kept moving along, and I kind of pared it down and went with my love, which is the flowers and the plants,
Right.
and the rest of it I really don't partake in. That's other people's problem.
So let me ask you this question here, because growing up, right? So like you said, you got your grandfather and your father's running the store. You decided to jump into the family business. Why not do something easier like brain surgery?
Well, it would have been actually. Actually, I did. I thought, well, I'm going to do this, and I enlisted in the Navy.
Oh my goodness!
And
talk about an adventure.
That was when I was 19, and I thought, I'm getting out of Midland.
Was this one of the times you got fired?
No,
I got fired, so I'm going to join the Navy.
This was just I'm going to join the Navy and get out of here thing. Well,
Okay.
I qualified for nuke sub school.
Oh,
But then I got a medical discharge before I even got in. And that was the end of that. So I'm back here and I stayed for ever since, you know. I've been
right.
here a long time and I enjoy it. Every day. I don't mind coming to work.
Right. So what is it in particular about flowers that attracted you to them?
The diversity, for one.
Right.
The fact that it's working with nature every day.
Right.
And I just enjoyed the for lack of a better word, the trials and having to come up with creative ideas and way to do things differently.
Right.
And interpret what the customer is actually saying, even though they don't know what they're saying. Makes sense.
Right.
And it just the love of the diversity that the flowers offer us and the ability to change people's lives.
Right.
You know, and that's a big part of it. I mean, doing the funerals for one, I mean, it's a sad situation, but if you can make it better,
There's something beautiful.
Big part of it. Yeah.
Yes. For our audience, we're going to take a break and thank our sponsors. Once again, this is Cliff Duvenois. You're listening to Total Michigan. And with me today is Mark Smith of Smith's Flowers and Gifts, located in Midland. And we will see you after the break. Hey, if you are enjoying these great interviews, just take a moment and go to totalmichigan.com/join, and you can get these episodes sent directly to your inbox because there's a lot more great stories coming. See you there. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Total Michigan, where we interview ordinary Michiganders doing some pretty extraordinary things. I'm your host, Cliff Duvenois. Today, we're talking all things flowers with Mark Smith. He is the owner of Smith's Flowers and Gifts. And Mark, before the break, you started talking about how when customers come through the door and they're talking and they're, maybe there's some kind of a special event or something, or they got something in mind, and you have to go through the steps of trying to figure out how you can represent that with flowers. Okay. What I would like to do is I'd like to take a step back from that for a moment. And because I saw this in a movie once and I always wondered if it was true, but the characters in the movie were actually talking about how there's like a language to flowers. So if you like for instance, because a lot of people think that if you want to say I love you, you give them a rose, right? Or, maybe, tulips have this other message that can be sent. Is there any truth to that at all?
Some.
Okay.
There's some truth to that. I mean, typically red roses are for love and yellow are for friendship, white are for purity, and so on and so forth. Then you get into daisies and iris and tulips and whatnot. And most of them don't have a specific meaning,
okay,
except for the color of roses. But the problem with that is I've got 3 or 4 different lists that say 3 or 4 different things. So it's whatever you need it to say.
Right.
And go from there. And people come in and they say, well, I want this, that, and the other thing. And I said, well, that really doesn't go real well together. You don't want to put red roses in with orange, whatever, you but that is changing nowadays. People don't really pick that much, but when they come in and they explain to you what they want and you try and interpret what they want and they say, no, it's not that, and then we come up with something that is mutually agreeable and go from there.
So let's explore that a little bit.
Well, sometimes you don't want your name on stuff, right? I don't want people to know it came from here, but
right,
it ends up happening.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit for a second, because if somebody does come through the door and they're talking about feelings, do you have something in your head where, like, if somebody came in and said, oh, you know what, it's for a 50th anniversary,
right?
And the couple, they just moved to Michigan or whatever it is, do you, like, in your head say, okay, so this would be this kind of flower here, and if it's because it's his 50th, maybe we should look at this color here? Do you do any of that at all, or is it just...
some. I mean,
okay.
50th anniversary is gold, right? So the yellow roses or other yellow flowers, typically. Then 25th is platinum, so you'd go with white, probably. Other than that, I mean, Sweet 16 is pinks for girls.
Sure.
And not necessarily pink roses, but a combination of different kinds of pink flowers, to give it more of a modern take on things. It's kind of changed over the years where, a dozen roses was really important. Well, now it's not so much that. It's more of a variety of different things.
Right.
And the traditions have kind of just gone by the wayside.
Right.
So...
Now, has anybody ever come in here and, like, put something together and you've warned them up and down, left and right, that's going to be hideous, it's going to be ugly? I'm not going to ask you to name any names.
No, I won't do that, but it's happened. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times we're in a good situation with our customers for the most part. I mean, we haven't been here so long.
Right.
And you keep getting new customers, which is a blessing, but most of our regulars, for lack of a better term, just trust us to do what we think's best and go from there.
Beautiful. Yeah,
I would say 80 to 85% of our orders are open orders that don't specify anything.
Oh, okay.
So we just do what we like, and it's worked out.
Yeah, I was thinking of because the last time I was ordering flowers, they had like different bouquets available on the website. So I was trying to pick something out that I thought like looked nice.
Yep.
But what you're telling me here is your customers just call up and say, hey, I need something for an employee party, or like we talked about before, the 50th or whatever it is. And then you guys just make it. Is budget a part of that equation at all? Or do they just say, make it? And
for most people it is.
Okay.
Especially nowadays, since COVID, it's gotten more so. People are watching their money. I mean, people are hurting out there. And if they can do it, and that's the other thing, if you just give us a dollar amount and let us do it, we can give you usually a better presentation and selection than if you pin me down and say, I want this, that, and the other thing.
Right, correct, yes.
For the same amount of money.
Right.
And most of our orders are dollar specified and product-wise not.
Okay.
Except when it comes down to certain things like funerals where they're a lot more specific. Basically.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Like this person really enjoyed this kind of flower.
Or they want red, white, and blue for a veteran, or they want, mom liked daisies, so we want, so that's the only time it really gets exact.
Right. Let's talk about the decision here, because I love this before. You were talking about it with your decision to start bringing in local artists.
Yeah.
and having them display. Now, is that something that you brought in after your father retired, or was that something that's been a part of the store from the start?
Nope. It's only been since Dad retired. He'll be 95 next month, and he retired at 80. So that was 15 years. Well, no, 70, 25 years ago.
Right.
And it was a product born out of the economy and how things were slowing down, not because of COVID. This is pre-COVID.
Right.
In the housing crunch in '08, stuff like that.
Right.
People were not shopping like they used to. And I had a few friends that were artists, metal sculptors and stuff like that were having a hard time. We thought, well, let's do a collab here and give them space, and it was filling up our shelves. We didn't have to spend money on the inventory, and we take just a percentage and gave them space to do it too. And it's worked out really well since then. So
nice. And one thing I do want to talk about too is you mentioned before about like when your father retired. Did he give you any advice when you started taking over the show?
Thinking back, I guess not really.
Okay.
Because he gave me all that advice in the 25 years that we worked together.
Oh, there you go. Yes. Yes.
Having been in the same place for so long together and learning how to do things the way he did and then doing them my own way. And just that kind of just overrode his ways over time.
Right.
It wasn't a drastic light switch moment that everything changed,
Right.
And it started to evolve too when I started hiring people to work for me and not for him.
Right.
And it just kind of evolved over a couple decades where it just washed itself out and did it different.
Sure.
And just kind of carried on. So we've been moving right along. And now it's the same thing with me and my daughter. She's doing it different than I did.
Right.
And I kind of have to bite my tongue and say, no, you can, let her soar or fall, one or the other on her own.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to me. And I made a lot of mistakes, but I also made some changes that were good. And we're still here. So
right.
Plan to be here for another generation, hopefully.
Right.
It'd be fun to be, because she's got 3 daughters. So it'd be fun to have a 5th generation at some point.
You want to talk about rare, a 5th generation family owned business.
I think there we're getting under the 0.5% somewhere in there.
So she has expressed an interest in taking over the shop.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
nice.
she's going to. I say I'm going to retire, and I say I retired 4 years ago, but I'm still here. So not as much as I used to be.
Right.
But at holidays, of course. But other than that, 1 or 2, 3 days a week, that's about it for me. But
for the number of years that you've been in your business, is there anything that really stands out to you as like some of the biggest changes that you've seen maybe in the floral business?
For us ourselves, yeah. I mean, back in the day, a lot of the stuff, product-wise, flower-wise, was grown in the U.S. And like back in the 60s and so, Colorado grew all the carnations in the world just about.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that's diversified now. We get flowers in every day.
Right.
And Ecuador, Colombia, Peru, Italy, the Netherlands.
That's mind-blowing. I did not know that was a thing.
Yeah. It's a worldwide commodity exchange, basically, in the flower business.
Holy smokes. So I got to say this, because everywhere I've walked in here, the flowers have been absolutely beautiful. Somehow they make it to your store. Somebody cuts them, picks them, whatever it is, puts them on an airplane.
Yep.
And they fly them here.
Yep.
And they still look this good.
Yep. Into Miami. Everything from South America comes in through Miami. And we get a lot of California product. We get a lot of the stuff that we use here personally, we get out of Canada. That's one thing that's changed over the years, where you're outsourcing or sourcing product from all over the world, really.
Right.
It's always spring somewhere, right?
It always is.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question here. Like, what's the most exotic thing you got in the store?
Today, I would say it's probably the orchids and stuff that we have downstairs. But then there's like hydrangeas, which are one of my favorite flowers to use. And that's one of the bigger things that has changed over the years. Product lasts so much better now than it used to because it's so taken care of so much better in shipping and in processing when we get it. We're doing stuff nowadays that we didn't do 10 years ago. And it just changes the longevity for one.
Right.
The variety that's available for another. It gets maddening because I have suppliers that send me sheets and there'll be 500 items on a sheet. Well, I can't sort through that. You want to have it back by 2:00 and it's 11 in the morning already,
Right.
And there's just no way sometimes. So you go with your standards, the things that you always have.
And your customers will love and
stuff that that you're going to move.
Right.
And add in a few odds and ends here and there to make it more interesting.
Right. So let me ask you this question here. This was something that I experienced a handful of years ago, buying just like a bouquet of flowers, just something to put on a coffee table. It looked beautiful. And I was shocked that the display lasted as long as it did. And I wish I knew what kind of magic was used because, it seems like flowers after like a week or so would start to give out, but these seem to last forever. And then like maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks in, all of a sudden these other flowers opened up and started to bloom, which was like beautiful. So if somebody had something in their home, because you're talking about the quality of the flowers, is there anything that they can do to like keep that quality looking good?
Well, yes and no. The old rumors of dropping a penny in a rose vase.
Never heard that one.
Doesn't
before,
work.
But okay.
Aspirin doesn't work. A lot of it depends on the product, how it was taken care of in shipping. Imagine it's picked in, say, Bogota.
Right.
It's taken and put it in a box in a refrigerated truck. Goes from there from the farm to the airport.
Right.
From the airport, it's on a refrigerated airplane to Miami. So it gets unloaded in Miami, and what if it sits on the tarmac for 6 or 8 hours?
Yes.
And doesn't get right into the coolers.
Yeah, especially on one of those 90, 100 superhuman days,
Right. So if that happens to that, and we can tell when stuff comes in if it's going to make it or not.
Right.
And the other part of that whole process is we use different processes that not every flower shop uses that cost us money out of our profit margin to take care of the flowers better. And product is developed over or has changed over the years where we're getting better stuff than we used to.
Nice. And
the longevity is way better than it used to be.
Right.
So yeah, if you can keep it alive, a good thing for a consumer to do is to mist it. Just mist it with water. They take water up the stems, but they also absorb it out of the atmosphere. So in the wintertime, your furnace is running all the time. Your air is super dry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes a big difference.
Nice. And Mark, if somebody's listening to this and they want to come and check you out, find you online, the socials, your website, whatever it is, how can they find you?
Midland, Michigan, Ashburn Street. You can't miss the big red building for one. Our website, smithsflowers.com, and then Smiths of Midland on Instagram and wherever my daughter's got. I don't even know where it's all at.
She's probably got a jillion photos up there.
I think it's everywhere, yeah.
Yes.
We're here all the time. You can order online all day long, all night, and we're here answering the phones every day. So.
Yes. Beautiful. Mark, thank you so much for taking time to chat with us today. Really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you coming and finding me.
And for our audience, you can always whirl on over to totalmichigan.com and click on Mark's interview and get the links that he mentioned above. Order your flowers. We'll see you next.
Valentine's is coming.
Valentine's is coming, yes. And we'll catch you next time when we talk to another Michigander doing some pretty extraordinary things. We'll see you then.